Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of a fascinating gentleman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. As you know, the Her Story Circle is not just about women. We bring on men because I believe we live in a world full of men. 25% of my guests are male. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome him to our tribe. Our episode today is focused on the silent epidemic, when being strong becomes the thing that breaks us. So welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Gertrude, thank you for having me on. My name is Mark Shrime. I am based right now in New York City, which is the traditional land of the Lenape people. I've had a bit of a weird career, so I'll just start with that. I'm a surgeon by training. Went into medicine really not because I wanted to. I went into medicine because I grew up in an immigrant family, and the firstborn son of immigrant families, basically we have three choices, right? Doctor, lawyer, or failure. So went into medicine, and over the course of about 15 years, persisted in the traditional medical path because our theme today is when staying strong kind of doesn't stop serving you. I was told over and over again over the course of my medical training that as much as I did not like what I was doing, I should just stick it out and be strong because it just gets better, right? Like being a resident is better than being a medical student. Being an attending physician is better than being a resident. So just stick it out, stay strong, and it'll get better. I did that. I stuck it out. I stayed strong, and I got to the better. And I kind of looked around myself, and I was like, well, this is really not what I signed up for. This is not what I wanted to do. We can dive into what the practice of medicine has become in the US. Over the course of those 15 years, ended up engineering a shift in my career. It started when I was right out of my training. I spent 6 months. I was completely burnt out. One of the problems with staying strong and sticking it out is that you get completely burnt out. So I was completely burnt out. Took a year after my training to travel for a bit. And then I worked for 6 months on a hospital ship that was docked off the coast of Monrovia, which is the capital of Liberia. Worked as a surgeon there, and had this epiphany moment, for lack of a better description. I walked onto that ship and walked into the wards and saw a bunch of patients with the types of conditions, the types of tumors that I treated, a bunch of patients that were kind of in various stages of recovery. Some of them hadn't had their surgery. Some of them had their surgery and were recovering, and had this epiphany of, after 15 years of trying to get out of medicine, this epiphany of, this is it. Like, this is what I've been training for the last 15 years. And I didn't even realize that was what was happening. That epiphany happened in 2008. I did not end up completely shifting my career to work in the global health space, and now more recently in helping others construct careers that are in line with their own purpose. I did not make that shift for 10 years. So despite knowing that this is what I wanted to do, I still had this voice inside my head that was like, nope, you've started your career in medicine. You've got to do this. This is a path that's been laid out for you, and you have to walk that path. Nobody does what you're doing, and they'll think you're crazy if you give up, being a full-time doctor. So it took me between 2008 and 2018 before I finally shut down my full-time medical practice in the U.S. To truly pursue this career that kind of lit me up. So I would love to talk more about that today, both the path itself, and I'm happy to talk about the work that I continue to do on these hospital ships, but also how to address and how to face this demand that we just carry on doing the things that we are supposed to be doing, even if it's to our detriment. How do we address that? How do we face that? How do we make decisions that are much more in line with who we want to be? Because these are hard questions. Like this is this is why the majority of us, to be honest, this is why the majority of us hit the middle of our lives and kind of look back on them and think, well, I'm not sure that I want to continue doing this for the next 15 to 20 years. So anyway, Gertrude's back on. I've rambled for 6.5 minutes. Over to you.
Mark, thank you so much. It is fascinating what you have done with your career. Not many people get to find their vocation and know what their purpose is and live it and enjoy living it. You've been on quite an inspiring journey that you've shared with us today. Now, you say that burnout isn't a failure of resilience.
Yeah.
It's a failure of systems. What do most people misunderstand about burnout?
This is such a good question, Gertrude. I'll speak particularly to the healthcare space, but I think this is true everywhere. When you read articles on burnout, the most common treatments in inverted commas are wellness, resilience, deep breathing, yoga, all those sorts of things.
Yes.
Which, listen, I am all for yoga and breathing better. Like, I'm not against those things. But what that approach does is it puts the blame and the onus of being burnt out on the burnt out person. Yeah. And says, well, you've got to breathe better. You've got to do better yoga. The fact of the matter is, we almost always don't get burnt out because we're not resilient. We get burnt out because we are stuck working in situations, systems that aren't built to serve us or the people that we're working with, but they're built to extract profit from us for others. So what this sort of wellness approach to burnout does is it masks that underlying issue, and it makes the blame sit on the person who's burnt out. The problem is the research shows that wellness programs don't actually do very much for burnout. So then what happens is that you feel like you're burnt out. You do this wellness thing. It doesn't work because they don't work. And then you're stuck again, even more burnt out, feeling like you're the problem. And it just kind of stays in this vicious cycle without ever addressing the system that got you to the place that you are.
Oh. Now, in your experience, what is the hidden emotional cost of being the strong one in families, in workplaces, and communities?
What I'm going to say is probably a little bit self-evident, but when we are, I'm going to actually give a very personal story to answer that, Gertrude, if you don't mind. My father passed away when I was just finishing my university. It was a couple of weeks before graduating university. Right. So this was 30 years ago. And my father and my mother had an excellent, loving, beautiful relationship, which also meant that her grief was deep. Like, she had a very deep grief. And I had to step up and be the strong one, deal with the paperwork, deal with all this. To be fair, she did a lot of that as well, but I had to do a lot of stepping up. And what that meant was that 5 years later, 5 years after he died, I remember driving. I grew up in Texas, and I was driving back. I was back home in Texas. I was driving, and it just hit me, just sort of all flooded in. And it was at that point that I realized that I had held it down for 5 years because I had to be the one to to be the strong one. And so what happens, the hidden emotional cost is that when we are so focused on being the strong one, persisting, doing the things that we have to do, we don't leave room for the work, emotional work that we need to be doing because we're focused on others. And that, I think, has long-term, effects. That mean 5 years later, you're driving around and you break down because you've been holding it in for 5 years.
Yeah, no, that is so true. Now, I know that you speak about moral distress. How is that different from stress or exhaustion? And why does it matter?
Yes. So there's a lot of literature that's been coming out on this field of moral injury. That is a big driver of burnout. The field started with studies in soldiers coming home from battle. And soldiers often are asked to do things that would otherwise be morally repugnant. Like killing a person it's not a light thing to do. And these things will often go against the person's moral and ethical framework, but they're asked to do them. And so this generates this thing that now has a name called moral injury, an injury that you've sustained because you've been asked to do something that goes against your moral framework. And that has expanded. The research in that has expanded to moral injury for people who are in some of the higher stress occupations and positions in life. So doctors and nurses, there's a lot of research in the medical field, research in law, et cetera, where you find yourself in a position where you know what the right thing is to do. But on the other hand, you've got a whole bunch of external pressures telling you should do something slightly different. Or you're watching others do things that are morally repugnant to you, but you just kind of have to swallow it. That leads to a type of burnout that is even deeper than exhaustion. It's no longer exhaustion. This is an injury to your moral and ethical framework that underpins, and it exhausts you, but it underpins that exhaustion and will never be treated by just getting extra sleep or going on vacation.
Oh, man. Now, many high achievers feel trapped on what you call the moving sidewalk.
Yeah.
How do people end up there without realizing it?
Yeah, so I use this image in my book, which is called Solving for Why. And I initially use it to describe the medical profession. I think it's very true in many professions. In medicine, we, especially in the US, we we choose to go to medical school after our university, but we've done a lot of courses to set us up for medical school during university. So basically, we kind of choose to go the medical path somewhere when we're 18 to 20, before our brains are fully developed.
Yes.
And then there's this assumption that once you get into medicine, you retire out of medicine. And you're just put on this moving sidewalk that takes you from high school, from secondary school, all the way to retirement, with the assumption that you just never get off of it, that that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
The thing is, nobody ever chooses to be on a moving sidewalk. We all make smaller decisions that are perfectly 100% reasonable decisions that short-term in the moment seem right and are right. But then they end up having this longer term effect of putting you on a path that is really hard to get off of. I talk a lot about one of the struggles that we have to, if we want to reorient our lives towards lives that fulfill us, we currently, for most of us, live in a hierarchy in which our path is the top of the hierarchy, and our purpose kind of gets shoehorned into that path.
Yes.
What we really have to do is flip that hierarchy, figure out our path, and then make the reasonable decisions to construct a path that leads us to our purpose. flipping that hierarchy is hard, but if we don't do it, we're stuck on this moving sidewalk, and then we hit 65 and we're like, wow, what did I just do for the last, 3 days?
Yes. What did I do with my life? And it's too late by then too to
Yes.
pivot and do anything different.
Yeah. It gets harder and harder. Yeah.
So why do traditional burnout solutions often make people feel like the problem is them?
Yeah. We touched on this a little bit. I think it's whether this is intentional or not. I'm sure it's not intentional. I'm sure these solutions are presented with all the like goodwill and desire to create solutions for this. But intentional or not, what ends up happening is again, by masking the systems that are causing this burnout in us and this moral injury, to get back to what we were talking about before, by masking those, by putting the impetus, the onus on us to get ourselves out of burnout, by using techniques that don't work to get us out of burnout because of the moral injury, we feel worse about ourselves. We burn ourselves out even more. And the only solution that we've been given is more of the same. And so that just keeps us stuck and keeps us from looking at changing the systems.
Now, you've lived the tension between security and meaning. What was the moment that you realized the path you were on was costing you your soul?
That's a really good question, Gertrude. I don't know if there was a moment that I realized it. I think it had been building up. To get back to something I said at the very beginning, I tried to quit medical school my first month of medical school. I started in August of that particular year, and in September I was in my dean's chair being like, I can't do this. And she did what she was supposed to do, which is convince me to stay. So I don't know that there was a particular moment. I think it was just this buildup of, I'm not sure I can do this. And then I had a conversation with a man that's very much a life mentor to me, who has built his entire life also around working on these hospital ships, doing surgery. And one day I asked him a question about how he makes big decisions in his life. And he gave me an answer that I have not stopped thinking about, which is when he is faced with a consequential decision in his life, he looks forward 30 years down the line and looks at the best possible outcome of each of his choices.
Right.
And if the best possible outcome makes him shrug his shoulders and was like, well, I guess, well, that's not the decision he should take, because he'll spend the next 30 years working really hard, where in the best case scenario, all he gets is a shrugged shoulder. And that conversation to me was probably the tipping point, as I came back from the ship that time and looked at the next 30 years of me on the moving sidewalk of medicine.
Right.
And I saw, 10, 20,000 patients that I would treat over the course of that time. Some of them would do well, some of them would not do well. And then I would retire with a nice house and a Jaguar. And I looked at that. I was like, that's not what I want to work the rest of my life to do. And I think that was the tipping point for me.
It's interesting that it was slow, but it got you there in the end.
Yeah.
So how does decision science offer a different, compassionate way out of burnout than the hustle culture or the mindset work alone?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. So in all that convoluted path that I've had, I also went back to school and I got my PhD in the science of decision making.
Right.
And that's where I started to realize, so that rule of looking 30 years down the line, looking at the best case scenario, that has a name. It's called the Maximax, or the optimist decision making criterion.
Right.
And there are a whole bunch of other similar decision making criteria. I think part of what is really difficult, and especially more difficult when we're in burnout and in moral injury, is that these things that you and I are talking about right here, they are very big decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Leaving medicine, huge decision. Changing your careers, starting or ending a relationship, like all of these things are huge decisions that impact our identities. And so when we face them, often it's really easy to be like, oh God, I don't have the mental energy to think about this.
Yeah.
And taking that approach, obviously, I'm going to say something obvious. Taking that approach is making a decision. It's deciding to stay where you are. What the science of decision making does is it actually gives us a path, step by step, with confidence to approach really big. Do I take this job? Do I leave this? Do I start a business? There are actual ways to break those decisions down into their component parts, understand how you make decisions, understand how to incorporate all the emotion, and all of a sudden this big, hairy elephant in the room becomes a much more digestible decision to make.
I like the analogy of the elephant. What's that African proverb? How did the ant eat the elephant? One bite at a
time. Yep.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, you encourage people to fall in love with failure. Why is failure so essential in reclaiming agency, do you think?
I'm going to give another personal example here as a very small example, but I think it hits at the center of this. One of my hobbies is rock climbing. I love rock climbing. I'm getting to the age where I should be a little bit more careful about it, but it's one of my hobbies. Yeah. And there are two ways to approach rock climbing. One of them is to climb the climbs that you know you can do and never fall.
Okay.
And then there's the other way, which is to do things that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone and just accept that you're going to fall and know that you can handle it when you do.
Okay.
It's an obvious illustration here, but one of these two is actually going to lead you to be a better climber. It's going to lead you to enjoy climbing more. It's going to lead you to sort of see what you actually are capable of doing.
Yes.
When we're afraid of failure, whether it's in our careers or in our relationships, when we look at a relationship or a career and say, you know what, this one didn't last, therefore it was a failure, and we're afraid of that, all that does is it constricts the things that we're willing to try. And if we're stuck and we constrict the things that we're willing to try, the chance of us getting out of that stuckness is even harder.
You know, that is so true. I've always said failure to me is not having tried.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I've done so many things in my life that have gone wrong. And for me, if I hadn't tried it, I failed. I'd rather fail and just use it as the stepping stones to where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
Than not even going there at all.
There is I 100% agree with you. There is a concept in the decision science literature and the behavioral economics literature called loss aversion. We as humans hate losing. There's a beautiful quote in Moneyball, in that movie about baseball, where one of the coaches says, "I hate losing even more than I like winning." And that is loss aversion. We hate losing. And so we will do everything we can to avoid that feeling of failure, because failure sucks. Like, failure is not fun. It's not fun to fail.
Yes.
In the short term. But if we avoid that loss, then we don't see the things that come on the other side of it.
Yeah. And that's why they say everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Yep. 100%. 100%.
And so for someone who feels deeply stuck but afraid to disrupt their life, what is the first honest question they should ask themselves?
Ooh, that's a really good question. When I work with my clients, the very first question that I have them wrestle with is why? Is their why? If they are stuck, and in an ideal hypothetical scenario, all of a sudden they're no longer stuck.
Yes.
What direction has their boat pointed? You know, their boat's going in this direction. All of a sudden they're no longer stuck. It clearly has gone in a different direction. Yes. What are they trying to solve for? And I tell them two things. First of all, there's never one answer to that. There's always multiple answers to that. It's more time with your family. It's more financial freedom. It's whatever, more purpose, whatever it is. What are the things that you're trying to solve for? And then this is something I really have to encourage people to do, because it's easy to do the opposite. when we approach a question about values like that, we tend to approach it with the idea that there is a correct answer, and that correct answer was who we were when we were 26.
Okay.
Who you were when you were 26 got you to where you are right now, but it's not going to get you out of it. So I really encourage them to answer the why question for themselves now, irrespective of what other people think, irrespective of what past them thought. Right now, if you could move your ship to a different direction, what direction would that be? How you get there, the ins and outs, and that's a lot of what the decision work is. But the very first question you got to answer is, if you knew you weren't going to fail, what would you try and why?
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Really good advice. Now, what does your purpose over path framework challenge how we've been taught to define success?
Yeah. I mean, this is right. Success is very often a monolithic definition, right? Success is financial. It is having a family. It is X, Y, and Z. Very, very monolithic. And if that is what you want, if that's the direction you want to point your ship, that's great. Like if you want to point your ship to be making a ton of money or getting married and having a big family, there's no judgment here. But the problem is we approach success in this monolithic definition. And if what we want doesn't necessarily fit in that definition, then there's a temptation for us to view ourselves as unsuccessful. When you flip that hierarchy and put purpose over path, then all of a sudden that radically changes the definition of success. And success for me is going to look different from success for you. It's going to look different from success for anybody else. And the really important thing is to define, when I look back in my life, when somebody writes my obituary, what do I want that obituary to say? And then how can I make decisions now to get myself to that sort of obituary?
That is absolutely amazing. You know, when I wrote my first book, the last chapter of my book is my obituary, and people thought I was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I had woken up in a dream, and the dream was of my funeral, and somebody was reading my eulogy and saying everything I would achieve in my life. And it felt very real. It felt very achievable, and I wrote it down. And it's really funny when I reflect back 20 years later that I've actually ticked off literally every single thing that was on that list. Yeah, so you can go to the future and decide what you want to do and just reverse engineer it if you're clear where you want to go. It's like setting the coordinates to that destination.
100%. I have all of my clients write their obituary.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a rough exercise, but it's good.
Oh, that is amazing. Now, I'm going to end our interview with two questions, and they are a thought experiment very similar to what we're talking about. If I could take you back to meet the younger you, this young man who went out on an adventure called life and found himself along the way and is now empowering other people to do the same. If you could go back and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom, based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
I was hoping you'd say one thing, but now I have to do 3. I think number 1, it's that question that I just asked previously, which is, if you knew you weren't going to fail, what would you do? And then go ahead and do that. Number 2 is the decision. No decision is permanent. Very few decisions. Some decisions are permanent. Very, very, very few decisions are permanent. So don't feel like you're making a decision today that has to take you all the way to the end of your life. So be willing to take some risks, because you can almost always reverse it, and you will always learn something from it. So if you knew you weren't going to fail, what would you do? View all decisions as not permanent. And then the third thing that I would say to this person is is to basically do the thing that you want to do. You're going to be spending all of your life working really hard. You might as well work really hard for the things that you want to be doing and not necessarily for the things that other people tell you you want to be doing.
I love that second one. The only constant in life is change.
Right.
But a lot of times we think that once you've made that decision, you're stuck, you can't go anywhere else. Things are changing and evolving all the time. So that decision can be changed at any point as well. That's a beautiful one. Now I'm going to teleport you into the future, Mark, and we are going to go and sit and have a conversation with the 90-year-old you. He's either sitting in his rocking chair, surrounded by family, by his dogs, his cats, or knowing you'll be on another ship somewhere in the world doing some good. If we could teleport to go and have a conversation with this wise man who has led you up until that point, what will you say to him when you finally meet him?
Well, what I will say is I hope that you have lived your life, for lack of a better word, that you have lived your life experiencing, that you have lived your life tasting everything that life has to offer you. I hope that when I meet that person when I'm 90, that person is looking back on their lives and can truly say, you know what, this life was full. It may have been hard, it may have been ups and downs, but it was full. That is what I want 90-year-old me to be saying.
I absolutely love that. The reason why I love asking my guests this question, Mark, is I have a game that I play in that I have conversations with the energy of who I am becoming. I talk to the 90-year-old me. I know she's in me already. And sometimes I get stuck. I don't know what to do next. And I go into my meditation and prayer and I will ask a question like, so what is the next step? And I sleep on that. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm in the shower. I have those light bulb moments and I know exactly what I need to do to execute. Or I talk to other people that I meet during the day. I tell them what I'm working on. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Each person brings a piece to the puzzle. And by the end of the week, it all falls into place. So trusting yourself and knowing that you have that inner wisdom to make the decisions that you need to make in your life, knowing that you were born with everything you need to create the future that you want, is something that I really love to encourage people to remember. And I love the way that you thanked the older you for creating this amazing life that you're living now, and you're teaching other people how to do the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gertrude.
Thank you for coming online, Mark. This has been a fascinating conversation. I didn't expect that we would have so many things in common, but you were finishing my sentences. I was finishing yours.
Amazing. No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are somebody who is feeling stuck, not knowing whether to stay or to go, to change careers, here's an expert who can guide you, who can help you. I've had Mark's website at the bottom of the screen. Please reach out and get some help. You don't have to do it alone. Or if you know somebody who is experiencing hardship, share this podcast, tag your friends, your family, give this information to someone else. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Mark, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you. where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.